Wait a little while for the stream to get started here. Love you, bud. Be safe, okay? Be safe, man. You ready to see Mama again today? Alright. Shit. Alright, so what I wanted to go over today is this this weird CIA document. You know. So this was approved for release in 2000. You guys can look it up. It's, if you look up CIA, it's on CIA.gov. It's Mars exploration, May 22nd, 1984. This is a really weird document. It's basically, just to summarize here, it's basically them talking to a medium who's psychically going to Mars. This person is obviously used for reconnaissance, you know, looking at enemy territory, things like that. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's done other stuff, so he's pretty well known. So I'll just read this to you real quick. Method of site acquisition: sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information: the planet Mars, time of interest approximately 1 million years before Christ. Selected geographic coordinates provided by parties requesting the information, which I happen to know this was the Army who requested this information. Don't ask me who. It was probably a high-ranking guy in the Army. Selected the geographic coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. I don't know what these freaking numbers right here mean either. Doesn't matter. So basically, this right here is the monitor. This is the monitor who's interviewing our medium, and this is the subject, which happens to be the psychic. Okay, who's astral projecting, whatever you want to call it. Whether you believe in that or not, it's up to you, but needless to say, the government seems to, because they got this document. That's why it's interesting. So the monitor for May 22nd, blah, 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 plus 10 minutes, ready to start. All right, now using the information in the envelope I provided, exclusively focusing your attention now using information in the envelope, focus on 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. Now, right off the bat, I believe this is the area to the left of the mile-long face on Mars, which happens to be like a cluster of pyramids. So the medium says, I want to say it looks like, I don't know, it sort of looks like I got an oblique view of a pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. So the monitor says, all right. The sub says it's yellow, ochre colored. The monitor says, all right, move on to the time indicated in the envelope I provided you and describe what's happening. So now they're taking them back to a different timeline as opposed to looking at this in the current time period. He says, I'm tracking severe clouds, more like a dust storm. It's like a geographic problem. Seems to be like, wait a minute, I got to iron this out. It's really weird. And the monitor says, just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. The subject says, I'm looking at after effect of a major geologic problem. Sorry. So the monitor says, go back to the time before the geologic problem. He says, total difference. It's, I don't know, oh hell, it's like mountains of dirt appear and then disappear when you go before. See, large flat surfaces, blah, blah, blah. Large walls, angles, they're really large, I mean megalithic, da-da-da. He says, all right, at this period in time now, before the geologic activity, look around in and around this area and see if you can find any activity. He says, I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's not only a shadow, it's as if they were here and now they're not. They're not there anymore. He says, go back to a period of time when they were there. He says, mumble. It's like I get a lot of static on the line and everything. It's breaking up all the time. Very fragmentary pieces. He says, just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together, just report the raw data. He says, I keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. I mean, what are we talking about here, guys? I mean, are we talking about fucking ETs and shit? You know? I mean, or maybe it was a human civilization on Mars at one point or another. Who knows? I mean, this is bizarre. He says, all right, now holding in this time period, I want you to move from your physical location in space to another physical location, but in this time period. Now move to 46.45 degrees north, 353.22 east. And he says, I'm deep inside of a cavern. Not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seems to go on forever, and there's like a structure with a... It's like a wall of canyon itself that's been... It's like the wall of the canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structure. No, these are intricacies, huge sections of smooth stone. Do the structures have insides and outsides? He says, yes, they're very... It's like a rabbit warren, corners of rooms. They're really huge. I don't feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high. Walls are very wide. I'm just going to go through here real quick. At one point, he basically says that he thinks that he's inside of a canal. He gives him a different a set of coordinates right here. He says, from this point, move on to 35.26 north. I skipped the part where he says he sees something like an obelisk, like the Washington Monument. Then he gives him another set of coordinates, and he says, very rugged, mountains, basins very, very large, scale seems to be off, something's really big, everything's big. Then he gives him another set of coordinates, and He says the clusters of squares move up and down. It's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground, and it's like they're connected. Something very white or reflects light. So what's interesting here to me about this document is that someone is giving this guy, the medium, someone's giving him coordinates. Someone has seen something maybe from one of the Voyager missions, who knows? One of the missions that studied Mars probably in the late 70s, or photographed Mars in the late 70s. They're giving him specific coordinates to look and observe these locations. Obviously, his observation has to fall in line with their photographs too. So it's interesting. It's very odd, because what this says to me is it seems like they were aware of Mars being inhabited at one time. That's what this document basically says, is we're aware that there's structures on Mars and it was inhabited by someone or something at some time. And they're trying to get answers. Because they have him going back to a timeline before whoever was on Mars left Mars. And basically, when you get into this document and you read this whole document, I encourage you to go to CIA.gov and look this up. When you read this document, you'll come to the same conclusion that I have, that there's something really weird going on with them giving them these specific coordinates to look at on Mars, which is out of the ordinary. At one point he says he's got him going to another location here, 80 degrees south, blah blah blah. He says see pyramids, can't see if it's an overlay or not because they're different. The monitor says, okay, do these pyramids have insides or outsides? He says, I get both, they're really huge. It's really it's an interesting perception I'm getting. The monitor says, I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he's attracted to things that are interesting, so we're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what seems to be interesting to him rather than move on the targets indicated here. He says it's filtered from storms or something. Say that again. They're like shelters from storms. These structures you're seeing, yes, they're designed for that. He says, all right, go inside of one of these and find some activity to tell me about. He says different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like strictly functional place for sleeping, or that's not a real good word. Hibernation, some form. I can't get a real raw input. Storm, savage storm, and sleeping through storms. Interesting stuff, guys. I mean, this is interesting shit. He says, tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. He says, very tall again, very large people. They are thin, they look thin because of their height, and they dress in like, oh hell, it's like real light silk, but it's not flowing type of clothing, it's cut to fit. He says, move close to one of them and ask them to tell them about themselves. He says, they're ancient people. They're dying, it's past their time or age. He says, tell me about this. They're very philosophic about it. They're just looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. Then the monitor says plus 40 minutes definite voltage reversal. There's some kind of it's like they've got probes on his head, and they're measuring the voltage, because they mention this several times during the interview that he's falling out of focus, and it has something related to voltage. Very weird once again. He says can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out, so they're hanging on a while. They look or wait for something to return, something coming with the answer. What are they waiting for? Evidently this was a group or a party of them that went to find a new place to live, probably another planet. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere like a long way off to find another place to live. What is the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environmental disturbance? He says, I see a picture of, well, it's difficult to... He's kind of going all over the place. He says, the raw data, he says, oh, I get a globe, and it's like a globe that goes through a comet tail, or it's through a river of something, but it's all very cosmetic. It's like space pictures. The monitor says, all right, now before you leave this individual, ask him if there is any way that ask him if he knows who you are, and if there is any way that you can help him in his present predicament. He says, all I get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. Thinks he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. He says, okay, when the others left, did these people are waiting. When others left, how did they go? I get an impression of, don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat. Very rounded walls and shiny metal. Maybe not the inside of a boat. The monitor says, go along with them in their journey and find out where it is they go. Impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. The difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and a different kind of storm. He says, all right, it's time to come back now to the sound of my voice in the present, blah, blah, blah. End of interview. What's odd about this is one of the only documents in 2000 that was released by the CIA that has to do with remote viewing. What's even stranger is it's remote viewing of Mars. I mean, normally you would use somebody like this in an intelligence gathering capacity. Find us the underground base. Find us where the missile silo's located. Find us, that kind of thing. That's how these people were used. And then their information was either accurate or not, and it was cross-referenced with other forms of intelligence to develop a picture. So it's just another check on their form. But this looks odd to me. I encourage you guys to check this document out. It's one of the weirder ones, for sure. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe you guys have comments on it. It's a weird one. Anyway, I'm going to stop the stream here, and I hope you guys have a good day.